Most people don't know what's holding them back, but you do because you listen to me, Sam, your self-care guru and journal junkie. Welcome to Journal Entries, your safe place where you can tune in weekly to get tips, tricks, and journal prompts to uncover your feelings, gain clarity, and make your move. Hello, welcome back to Journal Entries. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you how moms, especially working moms, can go from feeling exhausted and tired like all of the time to feeling more patient and present and even energized. I have a journaling membership called Emotionally Empowered, where bi-weekly we have journaling workshops. And on these workshops, the women hop on and they share a little bit about a situation that they're going through, a big emotion that they're having, or really anything that's coming up for them. And this past week, the general theme was that they were all just tired because they have a lot going on. And the first thing that we journaled on is what is contributing to your exhaustion. And I thought, this is so relatable. Moms are just tired. There, at any given point in time, there are so many things that would allow us to say, I'm tired. I just, need some rest, or I need something to give me energy. So that whole journal prompt flow we did that day was all about going from exhaustion to energized. And it gave me the idea for today's journal entry, which is bringing you from an exhausted state to more energy, more present, more peaceful, more patient with your kids too. So it's for you if that is what you're looking for, if you're craving peace so that you can stop flipping out on your kids all of the time, if you almost feel like you're in survival mode and craving support, if you are career driven but burnt out and you want healthy boundaries for yourself, if you feel like all of your energy is spent on managing meltdowns versus actually enjoying time with your kids. And it'll also help the woman who goes to bed totally depleted and wakes up already dreading everything that you have to do that day, knowing that it's almost all for everybody else except yourself. You are listening to the right podcast episode if you want to connect with your kids, be patient, have more support, feel less distracted, wake up lighter, and feel more fulfilled, but you're so damn tired. Okay? So you're here. You're in the right place. I'm proud of you for listening. Before I get into 4 tips that are actually going to help you, I want to honor this first thing. You have probably or are probably trying all of the things. That's probably why you're tired. You are well aware of the fact that you're tired and exhausted, and you are trying to find the thing that will help you. So maybe you're trying to do more self-care, like maybe participating in self-care Sundays, or maybe it's not on Sunday. You're just trying to do more things like that. Or maybe you're trying to do or to create the most perfect routine or schedule for either you or your family or your kids or all of it. Maybe you are almost putting the blame of your exhaustion, and not just exhaustion, but the other emotions that come with that, on your kids or your partner, which if you are, that's very valid. Or maybe you're taking all of your PTO, your paid time off from work, for mental health days, which I have also done. Past clients of mine, current clients of mine even, have shared that they go to therapy or counseling from time to time. All of those things are not helping you, right? They're not working. And it's because, let's even start with the therapy and counseling. It's because a lot of the times that's not consistent. It's something that a lot of women aren't keeping up with on a consistent basis. And so if you're not doing that on a consistent basis, you're not reaping those benefits. And at least for me, it wasn't until that I found that I actually couldn't afford therapy that I turned to journaling more consistently. And I felt way better after journaling, strategic journaling, not surface like, what are you grateful for journaling, compared to after my therapy sessions. self-care Sundays or self-care in general isn't always working because we often wait for those moments of me time, like those bubble baths or the massage. And it feels good in the moment, but it's so fleeting. It's nice, but it's not enough. It goes away just as fast. You know, like, do you ever lay down for a massage and you're like, oh, I've waited so long for this. And then it's over and you're like, oh, I don't even know the next time that I'm going to get another one. Or if you do have it scheduled out for, another month from now, it's like, okay, gotta wait 29 more days. We need to find something more sustainable and more frequent than that. Creating the perfect routine and schedule. I love a good routine and schedule. And they say kids thrive off of routines and schedules. And we also fall back on that a lot. We always say, if I had just a different schedule, then enter, the excuse. Or if I was more organized, then this would work out. Or if I could just change this one thing about myself, then I wouldn't be so reactive, or I could be calmer, or I could be more patient with my kids. But it's actually not that routine. Routines and kids and schedules and things are always changing. The other thing I mentioned was putting the blame on your kids or your partner and almost thinking like it's not my problem, which I did say was valid because let's be honest, our kids are irrational. They don't have like the emotional awareness, the capacity, the actual functions to process things and to react the way that we do as adults and the way that we want them to. And we even think things like, if our kids were just calmer, or we think it'll be easier when they're older, then I'd feel calmer. Or even with our partners, right? If my partner were more supportive, or if you're like me and a single divorced mom, if I had a partner, then I'd be able to split duties and feel less triggered. Or maybe it's a village thing, right? Like if I had more support, or I don't have a village, so it's so much harder on me, and that's why I have a short fuse, right? We put the blame on other people, and it makes us feel like if we had those things, or if that situation or story was different, then we could be more patient. Then we would have more energy, and we would show up as the type of mom or employee or whatever that we want to be. So here's the thing though, becoming more energized and more patient and more present and all of those feelings that you want is an internal act of love. It's an internal act. It's not external. And I'll share my quick story with you. Well, I'll share my story with you quickly because it's not a quick story, but I'll share it with you quickly. So here's my before, during, and after. My before, during, and now, as I call it. Before I was really going to therapy and then transitioned to strategic journaling for the most part, I was an extremely anxious new mom, and I was going through a divorce when my son was only 9 months old, which transitioned to full-time, full physical custody. I was overwhelmed, even though I was prioritizing my self-care, and I cut back my hours. I was only working about part-time hours, and I was just an emotional hot mess. Then I was going to therapy and I started journaling, effective strategic journaling. My son was getting older, and so that meant he started having meltdowns because he started having opinions. However, during all of that, because I was effectively journaling, I started to feel more hopeful, and I had a way to process all of that all of those heavy responsibilities. And now I do feel more patient and I feel more connected. I feel more energized, even though life is literally the busiest it's ever been. I have way more responsibilities than I've ever had. I'm able to kind of reset within 30 seconds, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I feel calmer than ever, more motivated than ever. And I think for the first time in my life, I have actual boundaries for myself. And so the second thing before getting into 4 tips for you is it's not your fault. All of this stuff, all of those things that I've gone over, feeling overwhelmed and exhausted, I don't think it's all on you. Being a gentle parent is something that we often hear, right? And we're taught, just don't yell at your kids. And of course, there's more to that. But, at first glance, it's like, be a gentle parent. Don't yell. Or we're taught literally, as we've just discussed, do more self-care or download this app. And they all claim to reduce your stress levels. Basically, we're taught to do things, to add things to our list, to improve ourselves in whatever way, or to feel better. We're taught to do these things and to look outward. Like the solution is that app, right? Or that course or whatever. It's like it's outside of us. What we're not taught is to slow down and to start questioning our habits and our emotions. So here are the 4 things that I would love to recommend to you to help you feel more energized, more patient, more present, and to actually feel rested and that inner peace. So the first one is to make the reason for all of the things that you do and all of the changes that you might make about you. My focus has never been about my child because I know that my positive energy will, of course, ripple into him. I don't want to feel exhausted or impatient. I hate feeling overstimulated way more than I don't want my kid to have a mom like that. Like, of course, I don't want my kid to see me frustrated and short-tempered and whatnot, but I don't want that either. I hate that feeling. And so it's personal for me. Owning that rather than thinking, I want my kid to have a patient mom, gives me control. And it also puts the responsibility on me. The outcome is my inner peace or whatever the feeling is that I want versus the outcome being my kid's reaction. If I'm doing it for my kid, that means that the barometer or, the measuring stick is my kid. It's his reaction. It's how he is perceiving everything. But if it's for me, the measuring stick is me. It's how I'm feeling. It's how I am showing up. And again, when I am feeling my best, it will ripple into not just my kid, but every relationship that I have, including my work. And that's true for you too. Focusing on you will ripple into the lives of your kids and all of your relationships without it needing to be the focus. My recommendation number 2, back to that 30-second reset that I mentioned, is creating a 30-second reset and release ritual for yourself. This helps you feel grounded after moments where your nervous system spikes. I don't know about you, but my son's meltdowns immediately used to spike my nervous system. That whiny voice spikes my nervous system and I just get all out of whack. So I realized over time that I was able to shorten the length of when my nervous system spiked and I was able to come back down. Because all of this isn't about not having emotions. It's not about not having your nervous system spike. All of this is life. It's going to happen. We're human and this is a human experience. It's about being able to come back to ourselves and being able to process it. So this 30-second reset ritual includes some sort of visualization, breath work, and movement. So I'll give a quick example of the situation with a meltdown that my son is having. I would ideally try and separate myself. I would go into the kitchen, but that's not always the case. Sometimes my son was right next to me when this was happening. And I would just visualize either something peaceful or the situation as I would ideally love to see it happening. And then some form of breath work. Often that would be breathing in through my nose and exhaling through my mouth, or I would inhale for 4 breaths, hold my breath for 4 counts, and then exhale for 4 breaths. There's so many different forms of breath work that I teach my clients and even like actual breath work practitioners out there. And then the third step, though, to my release and reset ritual is movement. Oftentimes, what this looks like for me is just shaking my body. What this does is it enables us to release emotions, to get them to move through our body rather than keep them stagnant and hold them inside our body or our stomachs, our necks, wherever you hold tension. This 3-step process is so powerful because there is a brain-gut connection. If you've never heard of this, it is a very powerful connection inside our bodies where our brain actually speaks to our gut and our gut speaks to our brain. It's a two-way conversation. The interesting part to me is that our brain speaks to our gut and 20% of those messages gets transmitted, but our gut's messages to our brain, 80% gets transmitted. What this means is when we say affirmations like, I am healthy, I am calm, I am energized, I am well rested, only 20% of that our bodies, our guts believe. But 80% of the messages that our guts generate, that our bodies generate, are absorbed by our brain. And the way that we do that is literally moving our bodies. And so by moving your body, especially during moments with heightened emotions, you are able to get more clarity, feel direction, and just feel better. Okay, moving on to the third recommendation, boundaries. I could do a whole podcast episode on boundaries, a whole workshop on boundaries, but having boundaries for your kids or for your partner. Remembering that boundaries are what you will or will not allow yourself to do. It's not things that you will or will not allow your kid to do or your partner to do or your boss to do. It's what are you willing to put up with? What are you not willing to put up with? Because you can control yourself. You cannot control other people. So getting really clear on what is it that does not feel good for you right now. And then choosing boundaries that align with that. And boundaries feels like a really big word, but it doesn't need to be really big. A boundary could simply be that I eat lunch at 1 p.m. every day because that feels better for my schedule. No matter what time my family eats lunch or my coworkers are eating lunch, 1 p.m. is when I sit down to eat lunch. It could be something like that, or obviously something more like when my kid is having a meltdown, I will sit down and hold their hand. My last recommendation, learn what motivates your self-sabotage. We all self-sabotage. I talk a lot about that lately, but sabotage is what's causing us the most stress. In fact, some say that it's what causes all stress, and it's what's keeping us stuck. So not only knowing your sabotage patterns, but knowing what motivates your self-sabotage, knowing what fuels your self-sabotage. So really understanding that motivation piece. And part of this work is learning to reframe that motivation and reframe the stories and the beliefs and the thoughts that you have about yourself as a mom and a woman, and then also disrupting those patterns that you aren't aware of in real time and as they continue to come up for you. And believe me, they come up for you more often than just when you're trying to go for a goal. I used to only think that self-sabotage was when I tried to go for a big goal and I didn't reach it or something, but it shows up for you when you're trying to be patient with your kids, but you're self-sabotaging when you are being short-tempered and impatient, knowing that you don't want to be that way. If you're interested in self-sabotage, just search my podcast, Journal Entries, for self-sabotage, because I've done plenty of other episodes on that topic. However, I am hosting a completely free workshop that I want to talk to you about. It's on Wednesday, February 19th. And it's going more into how to create more of this balance and inner peace in your life, and how to actually feel this inner peace without burning through your PTO, going back to one of those things I mentioned earlier on. I'll be going into how women are using their PTO as a Band-Aid for overwhelm. I see you taking paid time off thinking that that's good, what's going to rejuvenate you and make you feel refreshed. But then you go back to work the next day and you're still burnt out. You're still overwhelmed. So I'm going to teach you how to feel present and fulfilled and energized every day, not just on your days off. Inside the workshop, we're going to be talking about why taking days off isn't fixing your exhaustion and what actually will, the 4 hidden patterns sabotaging your work-life balance, the counterintuitive approach to feel refreshed daily without escaping work, my 3-step framework that will help you transition from work to home while increasing your energy. Just imagine like coming home from work or closing your laptop if you work from home and then turning on mom mode and not losing steam, even gaining energy and like actually being excited for the nighttime routine. You'll also get private access to my journaling community, and there will be a replay if you can't make it live. If you can make it live, you'll get real-time guidance through my journaling prompts. And there's a special bonus for live attendees only. You will be entered to win a mini workshop for you and your friends for up to 4 people, which is a $1,000 value. I'm so excited for that. So if you are ready to stop burning through your PTO, thinking that taking days off is the thing that will rejuvenate you, and ready to find real balance on a day-to-day basis rather than just on vacations and time off, then click the link in the show notes. I would love, love, love to have you. Again, it's free. It's Wednesday, February 19th at 12 p.m. I hope that you feel a little bit more energized and hopeful just listening to this episode. If you love this episode, screenshot it and share it on social media. Tag me. I would love to see that you're listening. Otherwise, check out my brand new series on Thursdays called Journal With Me. It's only about a 5-minute episode where I walk you through some journal prompts that will help you go from overwhelm to inner peace and self-trust. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's journal entry. I love connecting with my listeners, so make sure you screenshot this episode and tag me on Instagram at samantha.s.says so I know you're listening. And don't forget to grab your free training and journal prompts at www.samanthapenkoff.com/podcast.